テオスカー・ヘルナンデス・ウォーカー・ビューラー・菅野智之選手の移籍話が今日はメインの番組でした。菅野投手の情報はアメリカではあまり知られておらず、昨年好成績を収めてのメジャー挑戦ですが、公式番組の見解としてはなかなか厳しいものがあるようです。今回はこちらの番組を翻訳してお届けいたします。
But while you were watching something else, interesting story in the free agent case of Teoscar Hernandez. It's been put out there, and we're going to give this all the credibility it deserves because Hector Gomez is usually spot on with stuff like this. Teoscar wants 3 years, and Hector has listed 6 teams that are interested, and that price of poker goes up all the time. I know that you and I are on different sides of what the Juan Soto signing did for the rest of the free agents. I am firmly of the belief that it raised the price of poker on all of them. You think he's an outlier, and I guess we'll know in the next month or so what the right answer is of the teams that we just saw there. And we could put it back up for you.
Yeah, there's some good clubs that he fits nicely with.
Just pick one out that you could argue for or advocate for being a good fit.
I mean, honestly, I did not. The second one up there, the Phillies. What a missing ingredient he would be for them.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything.
I hadn't thought about that. Hold on, guys. We're not ready for him yet.
We'll get to Jesus Luzardo in a sec. We're talking Teoscar here.
You know what? I was going to say, you know what I did like, though? He's come out and said, I want 3 years. You know, I think a lot of times guys play around and I want 7, I want 7, I want 6, I want, you know, and you're not going to get there. By him saying 3 years minimum, I'm willing to take that, now all of a sudden you get 6 teams bidding.
Yeah.
If he says, I want 5 years, how many of those teams do you think are in?
It's smart, right? And then you can finagle your price points and your years of service, and one bid comes over the top of the other, as was the case with Soto between the Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox, we're led to believe. Here, Teoscar's numbers, a breakthrough campaign with the Dodgers last year. 33 homers, cut way down on the punch-outs. That had been a problem for him in past seasons. But this is a guy that's got experience in both leagues. Of course, 6 years in Toronto. Remember the year in Seattle, a couple years with Houston back in the day. Teoscar wants 3 years. The money's going to be great. He's 32 years old, so he's right there. He's right in the middle of his prime earning years coming off a World Series championship win.
This is where he capitalized.
Do you think the 1 year in L.A. was enough, and the World Series and all the great accolades that came with it? Like, it's easy to get the intoxication of staying with the Dodgers has got to be strong.
Yeah.
Do you think that 1 year would bring his price down a little bit? Like, will there be a incumbent discount if he signs with the Dodgers, or is he looking for the biggest dollars?
He'll get paid now. With that many teams, and it's only 3 years, he's going to get what he wants. The Dodgers love him. They thought he was fantastic. He's one of our great interviews. He's always available. Terrific person. But I think you look at the body of his career, and I thought it was interesting. You talked about he cut down on the strikeouts. If you watch, he's figuring it out. You know, this is the beauty of our sport. When you get to your 30s, we start saying they're old. But really, when you get to the 30s, you're like, okay, they're trying to throw me that slider outside in this situation. You start figuring out baseball. And if your body holds up, you become a superstar. And he's right there now. We just watched him have an amazing season. He's cutting down on strikeouts. It doesn't surprise me. He's getting smarter as he gets older. And I think you're right. This next 2 or 3 years are going to be big for him. He's going to put up great numbers.
This is his window. This is his earning window right here. I think a couple things, that if the offers are close, he'd prefer staying with the Dodgers. I thought it was a great fit on and off the field. They loved him in the room. They loved him on the field. So if you're talking about $500,000, ton of money for us, but not for these guys, he stays with the Dodgers. Even at $1 million, I'm not sure he wants to go elsewhere. But everybody has a price, right? If there's another offer that's so much bigger than the one in L.A., he goes. The team on that list that intrigues me the most among the 6 is the Reds, because in what you and I have discussed as a winnable NL Central this year, because it's changed, right? The Brewers are not going to be what they were.
How about hitting in that ballpark?
Oh, in that ballpark? With that good lineup around him, that's an exciting proposition. Teoscar there, that's a 40 home run season waiting to happen.
See, and I think he's learned his lesson, too. You know, we get caught up today, we're a lot about the numbers, and people are not figuring out it's also about who's around you. Soto had an amazing season, but who hit behind him? Aaron Judge. He's in San Diego, and they had to move him all over the lineup. You know, before that, he was always protected. Ryan Zimmerman, and he's always had protection. Teoscar goes to Seattle and had nobody, and he swung and missed like crazy. He goes to L.A., and you got all these guys around him. Yeah, I'm going to get something to hit now.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking his decision will be, who's hitting around me? That's why I'm intrigued by the Phillies. You all of a sudden throw him in there. You got Schwarber, you got Harper, you got all these guys that can hit.
It's intriguing, too.
Around him.
I know. Those are two teams we didn't expect to be with the usual suspects in the Teoscar sweepstakes. There was another story yesterday I want your reaction to as well, and it's this from Bruce Levine, who does such a good job covering Chicago sports. Cubs working hard on Jesus Luzardo deal with Marlins.
This is a high-end all-star pitcher.
That is true. They could have 4 lefties in their rotation. Luzardo made $5.5 million last year, 2 years of ARB left before free agent status in 2027. So it's a cost-controlled, high-upside starter. Would you at all worry about putting together a rotation with 4 left-handed starters? Is that a concern for you in any way?
Depends on who they are. So my first thought was, yeah. But you know what? In our day and age of flipping guys around so much.
You hit it. It depends on who they are, right? Because these are all more or less splits neutral guys. You're not so worried about being beat up by a right-handed dominant lineup that you'd be afraid of going 3 lefties in a series.
Right.
So, yeah, you make a good point there. Luzardo to the Cubs is interesting. I'm going to take it in a direction that we didn't see coming potentially here because just had this thought driving in, and as per usual, I was listening to Steve Phillips and Xavier on the leadoff spot, our friends at MLB Network Radio.
I never listen to you, Steve.
I do. They didn't get into this, but Luzardo as a trade piece is interesting, right? I don't know that the Cubs have the money to go get Corbin Burns.
Right.
But if you're worried about left-handed balance and you have the resources, and by the way, it's the Chicago Cubs. We're not talking about the bad news Bears here. They have money there.
Yeah.
Burns to the Cubs is something we've heard nothing of. Everybody just assumes it's Giants or bust. What if the Cubs emerge as a dark horse candidate here? The mystery team.
Wouldn't that be something?
But the problem is, I think they're still trying to tinker with how to score more runs because their pitching held up really nicely last year. Offensive repression ballpark. You've been talking about that a lot this winter. Yeah. So maybe it's a trade for Luzardo. Maybe it's going out and spending the big money on a guy like Burns. That's less likely, but I think that's interesting.
But also, now I get 4 left-handers. I can make some moves. Maybe I trade one of those guys. Maybe I couldn't acquire a bat that I wanted. Now I got another pitcher in to do the deal.
Yeah.
And that happens. And maybe Luzardo's one of those guys that they get. Maybe it ends up being Matthew Boyd. They signed. Maybe they trade him now. There's a lot of opportunities for them to really start to maneuver. If you have 4 left-handers in your rotation, you don't need 4.
Russ Dorsey leading the league in information, national MLB insider for Yahoo Sports, halfway through December. Russ, good morning to you. We have work to do. Still so many big names out there pitching-wise, post-Fried and Snell. How would you evaluate the free agent pitching market at this point?
Yeah, Lauren, good morning. Also, by the way, I'm a medium rare plus guy on the stakes.
See, you're fancy. You're sophisticated.
Yeah.
Not us.
You do what you do.
We do medium well and beyond.
See, the hockey pucks is crazy. Like, Matty V, we're going to have to talk, buddy. But to the question that you asked about the starting pitcher, you have Corbin Burns, who's obviously at the top of the market. I think everybody's waiting for Roki Sasaki, but that's going to be a move that's probably waiting until the middle of January. But I think when you look there at the guys that are still available, we're talking about the second and third tier of the starting pitching market. With Fried off the board, with the trade for Garrett Crochet by the Boston Red Sox, you're talking about guys like Sean Manaea, you're talking about Walker Buehler, you're talking about Jack Flaherty. And so I think as we get closer to Christmas here and into the new year, those are the guys that are probably going to be finding homes sooner rather than later. And you're starting to see a lot of the starting pitching come off the board. Starting pitching has been expensive, as we talked about here on the show, throughout the offseason. But after the winter meetings last week, when you're seeing guys like Fried come off the board, who knows what's going to happen with Corbin Burnes? It feels like it would likely be the San Francisco Giants, but you never know at this point in the offseason. Maybe something changes. But I think this week and going into Christmas week, I think we're going to start seeing the second and third tier of that starting pitching market come off.
You know, we start hypothesizing who's going where in, August, and 4 months later, we still don't have many answers. Is this free agent class comparable to in years past? How would you compare them, the similarities and differences?
Well, one thing, Lauren, I think you have guys signing, right? We're a week before Christmas, and you have a majority of that top tier of free agents that have come off the board. Blake Snell said, you know what? I'm not doing this again. I'm going to sign early. Willie Adames, Juan Soto, Max Fried. You had his trade for Garrett Crochet, a trade for Devin Williams, right? Things are happening. Even guys like Frankie Montas and Matthew Boyd and Luis Severino, those guys coming off the board prior to the winter meeting. So I think that's good for the game. We talk about all the time here on the network, people writing about it, fans saying, please, can we have action in the offseason that doesn't have to wait until January, February, and March? Think about it. Manny Machado, Bryce Harper signed way late in February. That's crazy. Nick Castellanos signed really late when he signed with the Phillies. He signed late when he signed with the Reds years prior to that. And so I think it's great for the game of baseball when you have this action in free agency, in the offseason, that doesn't have to just linger and linger and wait and wait and wait. And I think this year, even with the Juan Soto sweepstakes, it moved pretty steadily, till we got to the winter meetings. And then that night before the winter meeting started, boom, I'm signing with the New York Mets. And then things could continue to flow throughout the week. So I think this is great, and hopefully this is a trend of things to come.
Yeah, I think the players know they will benefit from it and act accordingly. We do know where Kyle Tucker will play next season. We showed a full screen, Russ, of the Cubs lineup, and it is just instantly better. Is this a long-term marriage, do you think, on the north side?
I mean, I think you got to think short term if you're the Chicago Cubs. Just getting Kyle Tucker in the room is huge. Who is going to be your answer to guys like Bryce Harper in Philly and Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. in San Diego? Now Juan Soto in Queens with the Mets. Like, the National League continues to get better. And the NL Central, as we talk about all the time, is a winnable division. And with the Milwaukee Brewers, they're a really good baseball team. They are. What Pat Murphy was able to do last season with that squad is nothing short of amazing. But if the Chicago Cubs were able to put together a roster that is competitive, and then you go out and add a guy who, when he's healthy, is a top 10 player in the sport with what he can do offensively, defensively, and on the bases, now you've just raised the level of the people around Kyle Tucker. You talk about Dansby Swanson and Ian Happ and Cody Bellinger if they keep him, or Michael Busch. Like, they have a lot of guys in that lineup that are good players. But who is going to be that guy that continues to take you to another level as the Cubs try to get back to October? We had a Cubs writer on yesterday, to your point, Russ, and he said once they play here on the north side, it is in them. They don't want to play anywhere else. It's a special place, that's for sure. So Astros fans, after they heard that news, thinking, no, don't take him. And then they quickly pivot to Alex Bregman. There's a few third basemen that we talk about daily, and once one goes, I would imagine it's a trickle-down effect, yes? Yeah, I think so. And I think when you look at the two guys on the board at third base, you talk about Nolan Arenado and Alex Bregman. I know for me, Lauren, a guy like Kyle Tucker is a player that you build around, but the Astros decided, hey, we're not going to be able to pay him what he's worth on the market or with an extension, so we're going to trade him to the Cubs and let them deal with it. If it's about the money at that point, wouldn't a better value play for them be Nolan Arenado, right? He has 3 years, $52 million left on his current deal. The Cardinals have been very public about their desire to move Nolan and how Nolan is open to a change. Maybe that's a better fit for them at this point, and then they can allocate that money to other areas around the diamond where they still have holes and still try to have a competitive team in 2025. Like, I don't think Dana Brown and Jim Crane want to punt on 2025 by any means, but how are they able to reshape their roster and say, okay, we're not paying the 160, 70, 80, 90, even $200 million that it might take to sign Alex Bregman, but we still have a guy at third base, Nolan Arenado, who in our ballpark could maybe have a bounce back type of season. First and third, both special players, by the way. First and third, top of mind. I played a game with the guys yesterday, and I asked percent chance. Pete Alonso's a Met come March, and they both said 100%. They feel like the best fit for him is in Flushing, Queens. What say you, Russ? I definitely think that's the best fit for him. And I wonder if this is going to be a staring contest between Pete Alonso and the New York Mets. Like, Pete Alonso sitting at home saying, man, this team's going to be really, really good next year. And I was one of the guys that helped build this thing. I want to be part of that. At the same time, you deserve to go out on the market and try to see what your value is. But I do think this is a situation where Pete Alonso might be more valuable to the Mets than he is for another team. If I were to put a percentage on it, 100%, it might feel that way in my gut, but you never know what that team is that says, you know what, here you go, Pete, come play for us. So I'm going to say 85% that he goes back to Queens and plays with the New York Mets. And then 15% that somebody that we're not thinking about says, Pete, come play first base for us.
What would that team be, that 15% top of mind? Putting you on the spot.
Seattle could use a first baseman for a while now, but I don't know if Seattle is going to be willing to pay what it costs to bring Pete Alonso in.
Players deserve to see their value, that is for sure. Russ Dorsey with the very latest on a Tuesday morning. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I got no money, but I'm here, still singing my song.
Yeah, let's break out the slot machine. Haven't had this exercise in a while to find homes for some free agents that are out there on the market. We'll give it a spin and see who comes up, and then Harold and I will have some suggestions. So
let's do it.
Give that first arm a spin there, lads. Let's see who pops up in the slot machine. Round and round.
Buehler with a cutter to strike him out.
Walker Buehler. Who would be looking for free agent pitching? The easy thing to say here is, the incumbent team, the Dodgers, right? The only major league uniform he's ever worn. Who else? Is there somebody else out there that you think Walker Buehler would be a fit for?
Well, I got no qualifying offer. That's big for him. So that doesn't give any attachments to him. So I think the Mets, what they've been able to do, the first thing came to mind for me was the way he threw in the postseason, and he started to show a lot more breaking balls, is Boston.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And not just because of the breaking ball thing. Like, if you're going to rebuild the staff, which they're in the process of doing, you already traded for one guy in Garrett Crochet.
Yeah.
I don't know that you're going to be able to trade for an entirely new staff because you're going to empty out the cupboard. Right? They want to keep some of those prospects in-house. So maybe it takes a free agent signing. I'm not sure if Burns is price appropriate because I think Burns is probably going to get more than Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
So Walker Buehler would be a nice pivot.
But to your point, very similar with Soto is Burns. He's setting the pitching market.
Right.
We know where Blake Snell landed, but now that was before Soto.
And Burns is probably going to be north of the Fried money.
Yes.
I'm just guessing.
So we'll see. I mean, he's the lead dog out there right now.
It's a good one. Let's spin it again, see who pops into there. Who pops into the slot machine next? All right, these are all free agents, all guys that are available on the market, and the next spin yields. I see Amsinger.
Peterson has done it one more time.
Jock Peterson has played virtually everywhere in the NL West. So I'm going to take him into a completely different environment and put him in the Bronx.
I love it.
Alex Verdugo is a free agent. He's out there.
I mean, what a pickup he would be. This dude can hit, man.
Platoon guy,
in
right?
that ballpark, what he would be able to do as a
he could play some first base,
too. Play some first base,
DH, first base.
I ever tell you my Jock Peterson story with Don Mattingly? Have you heard that?
I don't know that.
So spring training. Get this report. I'm going down 30 clubs, 30 days.
This is when Donnie's managing the Dodgers?
Donnie's managing the Dodgers.
Okay.
And I keep hearing about this kid, Jock Peterson. 30-30's the next Griffey. I tell you this.
Yeah, keep going,
and
though. This is good.
So I get there, and I'm standing in the cage and talking to Donnie. And I'm like, hey, where's this Jock Peterson guy, man? I keep hearing about next Griffey. So I'm looking for some kid with an afro, right? I'm looking all over the place. And he's like, he's right there. I'm like, where? He's like, right there. He's in the batting cage. I'm like, Jock, that's Jock Peterson? I'm looking for a brother with an afro, man. I don't know.
Spin it again. We're not going to get a better story than that one out of this segment. Well, let's see what other player pops into the wheel. That's good. Ha-Sung Kim, man, they loved him in San Diego. I mean, they were saying from
You love
two, three. I love him because they loved him. And I used to hear Bob Melvin talk about, look, they signed Xander Bogaerts, and there were a lot of guys there when Bo Mel was managing in San Diego and others that would say, this dude's a better shortstop. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But they loved what he did defensively. His offensive game has come around. And look, I know that the Tigers love some of their young guys. Trey Sweeney will play some shortstop. They still have this contractual situation with Javi Baez at shortstop.
Yeah.
What about him there?
Bad pickup. He's going to be a utility guy, insurance
I don't know. I think he could go start someplace, but if the Tigers were looking to just collect another middle infielder, what about him in Detroit?
So you think if he goes to Detroit, he plays more than...
I think he might play more than Baez.
Wow.
I know they're paying Baez a lot of money, and he's got bigger offensive upside, but...
See, I would have moved Javi Baez to second base a long time ago. When he was in Chicago playing second, it's just... I just think from just playing the position, he played it so great, and you're not as engaged with everything going on.
Yeah.
It doesn't run through you.
He is recognized by his peers as being an elite player, too. Remember, Matt Chapman was saying, look, I'll go over there and play there until he's healthy, because, again, he had labrum surgery. He's not going to be ready on opening day. It's going to take a little while, but I don't think teams are going to be deterred despite the surgery and despite the fact that he's not ready on opening day. Spin it again. See who pops into the wheel. What do we got next? I keep seeing Amsinger's face rolling around in there.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, don't let us win today.
There he is, America's guest, Kevin Millar, who played in the Pro Cup on Smoltz's team, missed a couple power jams. I think that Millar played that entire event against the hockey, football, and basketball guys shirtless.
Baby alligator upside down, their brain flips,
No,
and then
he's
they
not
freeze.
on the market because Millar is proudly under the employ of us here at the network. Well, spin it one more time. Spin it one more time. Let's see if we can get another player, current player out there. And it is
Scherzer got him with a cutter.
Max Scherzer.
Hello, Max.
There has to be some real interest. I mean, if, again, Boston's got to be interested in somebody like that. I get him. Lucas Giolito, by the way, is coming back healthy this year, too. They're not going to collect all, veteran guys. What about in that ballpark that he's pitching in right now? What about the Angels?
That's a great pick. Look, I like the fact that Max is always going to be thinking he's number one on the staff. He's going to think he's ace. His stuff isn't at that point right now in his career. Hall of Famer, first ballot, we know all that. But I want him to have that mindset because when he's on there, nobody has a better game face. And if his stuff is give me a 3 on my staff or even a 2, and I'm throwing Max Scherzer to match up against your 2 or 3 or 4 starter, I'll take that chance.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. I'd love to see him as an Angel. I think the Tigers are intriguing to bring him back there to maybe finish out his career and be the leader on a younger staff. I can't wait to see where this lands because he could be a sleeper waiting to really. Ooh, going back to Arizona. Oh. That's interesting, too. Let's take
Cardinals.
a break.
From Missouri.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good, too. Jeff Passan just got on the internet recently, I understand. Right-hander Tomoyuki Sugano and the Orioles in agreement on a 1-year, $13 million contract. Sugano's 35, one of the best pitchers in Japanese baseball last season. Great numbers and saying sayonara to his Japanese league employer to come stateside to Baltimore. All right, we get it. These are great numbers, but we also get that he's in his mid-30s. And if somebody's thinking this is an adequate replacement for Corbin Burns, then this guy's got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think what they're going to do is, if they're not getting Corbin Burns, and I'm not saying they're out of it yet, then you got to get as many guys that can fill that void for him.
Like this guy.
Yeah, but what stood out to me was like, hold it, he's 35. We don't have 35-year-olds over here that can pitch. This is an unknown. He's coming over here, and I understand he put up good numbers in Japan. I get it. But none of these guys you don't want? You don't want a shot at Verlander or Charlie Morton or Kershaw's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but could you get one of these guys at that price point for a year?
They've all made $1 billion. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to get to a point where we're playing musical chairs. And it's like, do you want to pitch? Do you not? It's not like they're sitting there going, I've got 15 offers. I'm just weighing them. You know, it's Christmas. I'm going on the holiday. These guys are not at that point now.
You're talking about that board.
That board.
Right. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying for sure. Like, go get one of the guys that's been here, multiple-time All-Star, Verlander,
You're not going to call Max Scherzer
there.
or Verlander and say, hey, look, here's what we're doing here on our club. You're a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Can you lead our young guys to that? Max Scherzer would say, let me lead the young guys in a heartbeat. And I don't think it's going to come down to he made $50 million when he was injured.
That's right. Okay. No, you make a good point, but it's Sugano that goes to Japan on a one-year deal. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I'm to Baltimore rather that I'm super conversant on Sugano. Right? This is not a guy that was on many of our radars. I'm not that deep in the weeds, but the Orioles apparently like him a lot. And it's a low-risk deal, too. Let's face it. It's a year for $13 million.
I'm not saying he's not good, but I'm just saying if I'm one of those 35-year-olds over here, I'm chapped. Like, what?
Well, here he is from the 2017 World Baseball Classic. The only man that remembers this event chapter and verse is J.P. Morosi, who's off today. Sugano coming stateside. Enjoy the crab cakes on the Inner Harbor.
なかなかに厳しい評価でしたね。確かに35歳という年齢は非常に重い壁となっていたのかもしれません。長年巨人のエースとして君臨し、何度もタイトルを獲得してきた名選手ですが、果たして来年はどれほどの成績を残せるんでしょうか。言語の壁、食事の壁、そして環境の大幅な変化、日本より滑るとされているボールなど、障害となり得るものは多くあると思いますが、以前の黒田投手や斉藤投手のように晩年からの挑戦でも輝かしい結果を残した選手はたくさんいます。来季の菅野投手にも注目していきたいと思います。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。